Get ready for an unforgettable night of boxing. Mayweather Jr. versus Gotti III. This Saturday night at Walters, across the street from Nationals Park. Go to waltersdc.com and click on events to register for a $5 beer card.
Você que está ouvindo esse podcast, o que acha de uma empresa que sempre trabalha para trazer impacto positivo? Assim é o Google. Como? A Duda da Orbi é um exemplo disso. Ela usa a inteligência artificial para ajudar pessoas a recuperarem seus movimentos. É a tecnologia mais útil na vida das pessoas. E tem o Jefferson da Tributei, que usa inteligência artificial para facilitar o dia a dia das empresas. Eles e milhares de empreendedores geraram mais de 188 bilhões com as plataformas do Google. Tem que ser bom para todo mundo.
Swing a high drive, center field deep. Doyle going back toward right center, way back it goes, and it's gone! Over the big wall in the Geico sign in right center, a 3-run homer for Luis Garcia. Nationals break it open, it's 5-0. Parker working at a good tempo. He has his sign from Ruiz. Here's the set at the letters, and the 0-2 pitch. Swinging a roller, softly hit to third. Tana has it moving left. He fires sidearm to first. It's in time for the out. Mitchell Parker finishes 7 innings for the 4th time in his big league career. Terrific bounce-back performance for Parker tonight after his rough start in Philly. Over 7 innings, gives up 1 run on 5 hits.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Thursday, August 22nd, 2024. Along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Mitchell Parker lately has been the Nats' most volatile starting pitcher. The Nats offense throughout this season has been volatile, but Wednesday evening, each entity was at its best. A 6-1 win over the Colorado Rockies at Nationals Park in Game 2 of a 3-game series. The Nats now are 57-70. The Rockies now are 47-80. That is the second worst record in the National League, and the Rockies have the worst run differential in the National League, minus 200. It's interesting when you look at these two teams. The Nats are the third worst team in the National League. The Rockies are the second worst team in the National League, but the Nats have a 10-game lead on the Rockies. If you via this podcast would like to send a shout out to someone who you care about, a birthday greeting, a congratulations, a get well wish, whatever, email Tim Shovers, the email address natschatpodcast@gmail.com. But Mark, lots of good stuff at Nationals Park on Wednesday evening. A very nice outing from Nats starting pitcher Mitchell Parker. A very good game from the Nats offense. It's funny. The Nats offense we know overall is not good, but the offense, as we have talked so often, can be very good. And the offense on Wednesday evening was very good.
They had a bunch of really solid at-bats early on. The big blast from Luis Garcia to give them some cushion, and that let Mitchell Parker just go to work out there with a really efficient, really good quality start from him. And this was an easy, comfortable win. That's not something we've said a lot here lately. The games they have won have often been a little more tense than this, required either a comeback or some shaky moments late where they have to hang on to win a game. They have not had a lot of these where they truly were in control the whole way. And for that, I give credit to a lineup that was consistent early on. Even though they didn't convert a lot early on, they kept the pressure on, got the big blast from Garcia, and then especially Mitchell Parker, who from the moment he took the mound was in complete control, really efficient, didn't even give the Rockies like a hint of trying to get anything going at the plate tonight.
Yeah, Parker's outing in this game was maybe the single best outing this season in terms of a Nats pitcher being both effective and efficient. I mean, this was pretty remarkable. 1 run in 7 innings with 6 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He gave up 5 hits, which were 2 doubles and 3 singles. He threw just 83 pitches, and he threw a ton of strikes, 61 strikes versus just 22 balls. You know, it has become commonplace throughout MLB. You throw 6 innings, you're like definitely at 90 plus pitches, maybe even, higher than that. This guy threw 7 innings, was at just 83 pitches, and the strike throwing was remarkable. A strikes to balls ratio of nearly 3-1. As we have discussed with Parker, this extreme volatility lately, he's either been really bad or really good. And Wednesday evening, he was really good.
So I'm going to look at the bright side of this. He's had 3 pretty bad starts here over the course of the summer. One in Milwaukee where he didn't even make it out of the first inning. A game against the Padres where he didn't make it out of the third inning, gave up 6 runs. And then the most recent one might have been the worst of them all, 9 runs allowed to the Phillies and didn't get an out in the 4th inning. So he's had those 3 really bad ones. And twice now, after the bad ones, he's bounced back with a really solid outing right after that. And the previous one went on a nice run of 3 straight solid starts after the rough one. This one clearly a huge improvement from the previous one. And I think this is a good quality and trait about him. He's very low emotion, doesn't show highs or lows at all. And so I think for him, as ugly as some of those starts have been, I think he's pretty good at just brushing those aside and not paying that much attention to them and just getting back to work. And what you saw in this one, it was from the first inning, 11 pitches, 9 strikes. He set the tone right away. And so you hope he doesn't have more of these blow-up starts, but it's nice to know that if he does, unlike some others that we've seen, he can flip that switch, get it back together the next time out, and not let this turn into any kind of sustained slump.
He is on quite the roller coaster ride. You look at his last 9 starts. He has allowed at least 5 earned runs 4 times. He has allowed 2 earned runs or less the other 5 times. Like, we're not kidding when we say he's either really bad or really good. And Wednesday evening, he was really good. It's funny, if you look at his overall numbers at the major league level this regular season, they don't wow you. 23 starts, ERA 4.26, whip of 1.25. But that's because those numbers are a combination of the very bad and the very good. I wish this was like a class where you could throw out the worst, test score, the worst 2 test scores. Because if you take out just 1 or 2 of those wretched Mitchell Parker outings, his numbers for this season actually look quite good.
Well, and here's the biggest thing to me. He's now had 4 starts out of those 23 that he's completed 7 innings and another 2 that he's reached the 7th inning. So 6 out of 23, that's better than 25% of his starts as a big league pitcher. He's reached the 7th inning. That's, in this day and age, a huge accomplishment. And it shows that when he's on, he is able to be not just effective, but efficient enough to go deep in games. So, of course, the next step is to eliminate the really bad ones, just turn them into those average kind of starts. And you'd like to think he can get there over time. But if nothing else, he has shown this resiliency already early on in his career to shrug off a bad one and come right back 5 days later and look not just okay, but look really good.
How tempted do you think was Davey Martinez to push Parker beyond 7 innings, given that he was at just 83 pitches?
Yeah, I was thinking about it at the end of the inning, and you have a pretty comfortable lead, so I thought maybe you do it and decided, no, it's not worth it. Now, of course, he's never reached the 8th inning yet in the big leagues. I'm sure they are very closely watching his workload right now, his innings count. As a rookie, there are probably going to be some starts here down the stretch where they may have to hold off and, pull him a little bit sooner than they want. So I get why they would do that. Maybe a year from now, you don't have those same concerns. He certainly looked like he could have kept going. I don't think there was any issue with that, but the bullpen was in good enough shape. The lead was comfortable enough that they said, let's not take a chance. So I get it. I would love to see down the road here. It may not happen until next year. If he has that kind of opportunity again, let him keep going, see how he does.
And it was an easy breezy night for the Nationals bullpen. 2 natural relievers combining for 2 scoreless innings. Joe LaSorsa, perfect top of the 8th, and Tanner Rainey, a scoreless top of the 9th. We talked some about Rainey on the last installment of the podcast. So he pitches for a 2nd consecutive game, and he technically, pitches the 9th inning of a Nationals win. Now, I don't know, do we call this a blowout win? It's not really a blowout win. It certainly was a comfortable win. So I don't know if Davey is trusting Rainey, with a high leverage spot. That was not high leverage. But 9th inning of a Nationals victory, that is a departure from where we had been with Tanner Rainey.
Yeah, I'll call it a medium leverage situation. Maybe not a super high leverage, but it's the 9th inning. As we know, there's a little extra juice for that inning. And you know what? Good for him. It was nice to see Tanner Rainey on the mound, shaking hands with Keibert Ruiz, having everybody come out to do the high fives, having the lights in the stadium turn red. That's a spot he's been in the past, but it's been a while since he's been there. And so maybe a little thing like that can actually be good for his confidence. I think we're going to see more of these. Davey has said it multiple times about the need to start using him in some higher leverage spots. And I'll tell you what, he's actually been quietly pretty good. So at the end of June, his ERA was up to 7.77. He's now, over his last 16 appearances, he's got an ERA in the low 2s. So it's getting there, and you're starting to see him used a little more regularly as well. It's not that long 5-6 day layoff between outings, and certainly he's not just being used in blowout games anymore. They're trying to find some more spots of consequence for him. It's remarkable, the state of the bullpen right now, between the trades and the injuries, the guys that they do have to call upon to pitch in some high leverage spots, and they're doing really well. Prior to this game, the stat was that over the last 2 weeks, the Nats bullpen has a 1.95 ERA, which is best in the major leagues, and add 2 more scoreless innings to it from this game. That's totally unexpected. How many of us, after the trade deadline and after the Derek Law injury, said, oh yeah, this bullpen's going to have a sub-2 ERA for the next few weeks? No, not me.
Yeah, and that even includes some rough outings for Kyle Finnegan. So give these guys a lot of credit. People like Jacob Barnes doing well, Tanner Rainey doing better, and the bullpen has been very productive. No question about that. Hey, Al Galdi here to tell you about the latest great offer from Window Nation. For listeners of the Nats Chat podcast, get 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years, plus get an additional $250 credit. If you have been thinking about getting new windows, now is the time. Take advantage of this offer from Window Nation. Call 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Window Nation windows are outstanding. 96% customer satisfaction rating. 96% of Window Nation windows installed require no follow-up service, and Window Nation has received more than 33,000 5-star reviews on Google. Take advantage of this offer. 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy. Plus, pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years and get an additional $250 credit. 866-90NATION or windownation.com. Tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. 866-90NATION or windownation.com and tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you.
This podcast is supported by IPVanish VPN. If you care about the security of your online activity, the easiest way to protect yourself is with IPVanish. With a rating of excellent on Trustpilot, IPVanish provides an encrypted connection for all your internet traffic, helping to prevent websites, Wi-Fi providers, and hackers from intercepting your data. Help keep your financial details, personal information, and online activity safe from threats with IPVanish. Get started with this limited time offer and save 83% on your 2-year subscription. Visit ipvanish.com/bluewire. That's ipvanish.com/bluewire.
Gordon to the belt. He kicks and he fires, and Gallo swings and lines it to right field, coming on his back. Can't make the play and gets by him all the way to the fence. Tena trots in from third. Chaparro on his way to third, being waved around. Here comes a relay to the plate. Could be close, and he is out at the plate. On the relay for the second baseman, Brendan Rodgers. A perfect throw to the catcher, Drew Romo, and there ahead of Chaparro. And he is out at the plate for out number 2. Gallo was gaining on him. He was going to third no matter what.
Well, the Nats offense in this 6-1 win over the Rockies on Wednesday evening, lots of good stuff. The only nit to pick, 2 more outs on the base pass, but beyond those 2 outs, you had positives all over the place. 6 runs, 12 hits, which were a home run, 3 doubles and 8 singles, 2 walks, 4 for 11 with runners in scoring position. And how about this? Just 2 strikeouts. The Nats struck out just 2 times the entire game. How often does that happen in 2024 MLB? The Nats in this game scored a run in the bottom of the second, 4 runs in the bottom of the third, and a run in the bottom of the 6th. James Wood, another 3-hit game for him, another instance of him pulling the ball in the air, that which he had not been doing. He now has done multiple times. That's good. We want to see more of that. But Wood in this game, starting left fielder, number 3 batter, 3 for 4 with a double and 2 singles, and another standout game in terms of exit velocity. Wood per StatCast had 3 of the Nats' top 5 exit velocities in the game. He did make a bat out on the base pass. We'll get to that. But Wood, bottom of the first, a 2-out infield single up the middle of the infield on an 0-2 pitch. That single, an exit velocity of 107.8 miles per hour. Also on the play, a throwing error by Rockies second baseman Brendan Rodgers. The Rockies defense in this game, by the way, was quite bad. Wood in the Nats 4-run third, 1-out single into right field. That single, exit velocity of 106.7 miles per hour. Wood, bottom of the fifth, leadoff double off the right field scoreboard on an 0-2 pitch. That double had an exit velocity of 104.9 miles per hour. Then came the base running boo-boo. Wood officially charged with getting picked off and caught in an attempted steal of home for the third out.
Runners lead first and third. Tena runs from first. Chaparro swing and a miss. And now Wood, too far off third, is caught. Catcher throws to McMahon, the third baseman. Back to the catcher. Back to McMahon. Puts the tag on Wood. And that will end the inning.
Fell for the pump fake.
Yep.
I'm interested in your take on that, but let's focus on the positive here with James Wood. Another big game for him. 185 Major League plate appearances now for him since he was promoted from AAA Rochester on July 1st. He's got that OPS up to 833.
He's killing the ball right now, as we've been talking about for a while. But, I mean, he is batting .373 since July 27th. So we are about, three and a half weeks now that he's been on that kind of tear and hitting for power, doubles, triples, homers. That double was a titanic blast that the whole ballpark was kind of holding spread. It was up in the air for so long, and you didn't know, is that going to clear the fence? Where is it going to land? The right fielder, Beck, got completely turned around, had no idea where the ball was. So everybody in the park, I think, based on his reaction, thought that it was going over the fence, and instead it bounced off the wall 10 feet to his left. Regardless, it was a really impressive display of power, and as you said, to the pull side. So I'm running out of superlatives here. I mean, 3-hit games, 4-hit games, hitting for power, the exit velocities off the chart. There's just so much to like, and I keep saying it's only going to get better as he gets more experience and starts getting more comfortable facing big league pitching and understanding what they're trying to do to them. You said, on an 0-2 pitch to hit the ball that well. There's so much growth there. It's just been remarkable to see what he has done in such a short amount of time.
What did you see on him getting tagged out in the rundown between third and home?
Yeah, it's another case of they're trying to catch the defense by surprise. The defense is not surprised at all by it. They saw it coming from a mile away. Now, I think if he had just gone straight back to third base and dove in, not guaranteed he would have made it, but I think he would have had a better chance than ultimately getting himself in a rundown where he had almost no chance of getting out of that. So it might be a case of just trust your first instinct there. Go back to the bag. Maybe you beat the throw and all's well that ends well. And if not, you're out. Trying to drag the play out didn't do any good. It didn't get the trailing runner any further. But just in general, they need to clean this stuff up and just become less predictable on the bases. It just seems like teams know when they're going to try something like that. And it's really, thankfully didn't cost them in a game like this. But one of these days we're going to be talking about that. That's the difference in a game they lose by 1 run, right?
They're so bad when it comes to this. It's remarkable. If you look at team rankings in things like outs on base pass, outs on third base, outs in terms of attempted stolen bases that don't work out, the Nats rank at or near the bottom at MLB in all of these things. They're wretched at these things, and yet they act like they're not. They had that initial success this season with stolen bases, and they have carried that with them throughout this year. It's like a person who is never funny, who says something funny, and then keeps going back to the joke over and over again. And you're like, okay, hey, you had a win, but stop overdoing it. Stop overplaying it. And the Nats, for a very confined, finite period of time, they were stealing bases like crazy. Good for them. We are a ways away from that now, and they're still acting like they're doing that. This has been months now that they've been making all of these outs on the base paths.
So basically what you're trying to say is that the Nationals on the bases are like Kenny Bania doing stand-up.
Very much.
They think it's gold. It's not gold, Jerry. They are not killing it out there. They are dying on stage with all these attempted steals, and it doesn't matter who tries to tell them the truth. They're just never going to figure it out.
My biggest complaint about Davey Martinez, I think he's done a lot of things well. The bullpen being surprisingly good lately, that's another testament to Davey Martinez. But this base path stuff, is a very poor reflection of him and of the coaching staff that they cannot clean this up. And this has gone on. It's not just a this season thing either. We've had this conversation in previous seasons, but it's ridiculous. It should not be the case like this. And, whether it's guys running on their own or running off the command from the dugout, it doesn't matter. This is the kind of thing that good teams don't do. And this team does way too much of it.
Well, what I was just going to say is, okay, in a rebuilding year where they're going to finish with a losing record, you kind of say, okay, it's annoying, you got to clean this up, but it's not really costing them big games. There's going to come a point, hopefully within the next year, where they are going to be playing really meaningful games. And you just hope that they're not losing some kind of critical pennant race game because of the same kind of mistake they've been making the last few years. So that's why it's important to clean it up now, to establish that you know how to run the bases smartly so that when it does really matter in the future, we're not having the same conversation again.
And this was a game in which the Nats were hitting. They didn't need to manufacture runs. Just let guys hit. The Nats were hitting the balls all over the place. Let the guys do their things instead of trying to force feed, stealing bases and manufacturing runs. You didn't need to do that in this game.
Você que está ouvindo o seu podcast e curte fazer um bom negócio, vai aí uma dica imperdível. A nova Chevrolet S10 está na sua melhor versão, bruta e macia ao mesmo tempo. De um lado, toda a força e potência de uma picape bruta, invocada e conectada. Do outro, todo o conforto que só a nova suspensão proporciona, muito mais macia e silenciosa, deixando suas viagens ainda mais confortáveis. É a nova S10 que você conhece e confia, ainda mais bruta, brutalmente macia. Acesse chevrolet.com.br para saber mais.
Here's your minor league report for the games played on Wednesday. Dylan Cruz 4 singles out of the leadoff spot while playing right field on the mound. Tyler Stewart, recently promoted to AAA, 6 2/3 innings, allowed just 1 hit and 1 run, no walks, struck out 6. He's the pitcher acquired for Jesse Winker last month. And at the Fred Nats in the low A level, a solid performance on the mound for Alex Clemmie, the left-handed starter acquired in the Lane Thomas deal. 5 innings pitched, allowed just 1 hit, issued 2 walks, and struck out 5. Now back to the show.
He comes set. He kicks and delivers. Swing and a fly ball again to left field. Playable for Wood. Drifting back, backpedaling. He's there, and he makes the catch. A Curly W's in the books tonight here at Nationals Park.
I do want to make this point about James Wood. We've been talking a lot lately about Dylan Cruz and this deliberate pace with which the Nats are operating when it comes to calling Cruz up to the majors. The Nats did this with James Wood. They took their time, and I think they deserve credit for this because you know what? He has hit the ground running. He is doing quite well. We can talk about the defense, and yes, he has made outs on the base paths himself, but the hitting has been tremendous. And so them taking their time with Wood seems to have been the wise course. And I think the Nats deserve a benefit of the doubt here with Dylan Cruz. As much as we all want to see him promoted to the majors, the Nats sticking to their process with James Wood seems to be paying off. And hopefully we say the same thing about Dylan Cruz.
Well, the thing they always say is they don't want to call a guy up, have him struggle, and then have to think about sending him back down. And in Wood's case, it has never even crossed their mind to have to do that because he's been so good right from the get-go. They let him completely master the AAA level. Now, he also had the injury, remember, that knocked him out and probably delayed the debut by several weeks, maybe even a month. But they said, we're not doing this until he's checked every box, and there's no question about whether he's big league ready or not. And in Dylan Cruz's case, as we've talked about, he's been good, but not great. And maybe they are waiting for him to be great before they make the move. I'll be interested to see how this plays out. I mean, next week is that big week, I think, against the Yankees and the Cubs. And there are reasons to do it then, and there's reasons not to do it then. And I think the way they handle this will say a lot about how they really are approaching this thing and what the priority is in their mind. Is it about getting him as much big league time as they can this year? Or is it about truly waiting until they've seen him master AAA and bring him up here knowing that there's not going to be any reason to think about sending him back down again?
Well, I mentioned James Wood now having an OPS of 833. He is not yet a qualified Nats player for a rate stat like OPS. Luis Garcia Jr. is, and he remains number one among all qualified Nats players in OPS. His now is at 793. Garcia on Wednesday evening as the Nats starting second baseman and number 5 batter, 1 for 4 with a 3-run homer. Garcia in that Nats 4-run third, a 1-out 3-run homer on a bomb to center field for a 5-0 Nats lead. That homer going a projected 419 feet per StatCast. So Garcia, who already has overtaken shortstop CJ Abrams in terms of the team lead in OPS, now is actually closing in on Abrams' team lead in home runs. Abrams at 18 homers, Garcia at 15 homers. Abrams on Wednesday evening as an Nats starting shortstop and number 2 batter, 0 for 4. But by far, my favorite portion of the Davey Martinez postgame press conference on Wednesday night was him singing the praises of Luis Garcia Jr. A lot of good, and I thought interesting stuff from Davey Martinez. You can tell he is so proud of Garcia, so happy to see Garcia's success given where Garcia has been.
We told them all along, you can hit. We know you can hit. But you got to understand what you can hit and what balls you can hit.
And Davey noted how he pushed him. He had to push him this spring, especially be kind of hard on him. We talked about it many times prior to opening day and wondering, is he even going to make the opening day roster? Are they looking to push him out in favor of Trey Lipscomb? Well, he got the message. And I think the biggest thing, 2 things that stand out to me about Luis Garcia, consistency, really has not had prominent slumps this year. He's been times he's been better than at others, but he's not gone through that month-long like CJ Abrams has period where you're like, man, he looks lost at the plate. That's number 1. Number 2, what he's doing lately, it's not just he's producing in big, significant moments. These have been important home runs he's hit. Remember the bottom of the 9th, 3-run homer against the Giants to force extra innings. This one, I know they were hitting well, but they didn't have a whole lot to show for it, in part because of the base running and just like not truly converting. That 3-run blast in the 3rd inning, that solidified the rally that made this a 5-0 game and said, okay, this is going to be a good night at the plate for the team, not a frustrating night for them. So the fact that he's coming through for them in big moments, I think bodes really well. And it again shows the continued progression that he's made.
And he hits bombs. I mean, his home runs routinely are 400 plus feet. He may not look like he has a ton of power, but he most certainly has power. Keibert Ruiz had a 2-hit game. He is the Nats starting catcher and number 4 batter, 2 for 4 with an RBI single and another single. Ruiz in the Nats 4-run third, 1-out RBI single to center field for a 2-0 Nats lead, and Ruiz in the bottom of the 7th, a 1-out single to right field on a 1-2 pitch. The terrific August for Keibert Ruiz continues. He for this month of August now has an OPS of 862. We had an RBI double from Joey Gallo. He in his second game off the 10-day injured list was the Nats starting first baseman and number 8 batter. He went 1 for 4 with an RBI double. It was on that RBI double that we had the other base running boo-boo by the Nats, Andres Chaparro. Now, Chaparro had 2 hits in this game. Let's give him some credit. He is the Nats starting DH and number 7 batter, 2 for 4 with a double and a single. He in the Nats 1-run second, had a 1-out first pitch, opposite field single through the right side of the infield, but he got thrown out at home on that Joey Gallo 1-out RBI double to right field. But Chaparro himself with a double. He in the Nats 1-run 6 had a leadoff double to left field. And, up and down the lineup we can go. Jacob Young had an RBI single in this game. CJ Abrams was the only Nats starting position player who went hitless in this game. It's funny, Abrams went 0 for 4 with a strikeout, and the Nats still did what they did offensively.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier only 2 strikeouts for them in the game. That's with Joey Gallo in the lineup, and he had 1 of the 2. I want to talk about Gallo here. I thought he had a very good night. The double, which I want to give him a triple for. Okay, so that the base running issue in front of him, Chaparro getting thrown out, denied Gallo the triple, but he was motoring him around the bases. And I think Ricky Gutierrez had no choice but to send Chaparro, because by the time Chaparro rounded third, Gallo was like halfway between second and third. He slid into third base before the tag was even made at the plate. And so I want to give Gallo credit for that. I want to give him a triple for that. He also hit a ball really well to center field in his final at bat that was caught. So only 1 strikeout for the guy, a clutch double, hit the ball well another time, played good defense at first base. We talked the other day about how, he's not really going to be important here the rest of the way. They're going to prioritize the young guys over him, but it was nice to see after a very long layoff for him to be back in there and contribute in some meaningful ways for them.
Yeah, he missed 2+ months with that hamstring injury, and good to see that he can run coming off the hamstring injury. He seemed to be running just fine there on that double. So Game 3 for the Nats against the Rockies at Nationals Park Thursday afternoon at 1:05. Patrick Corbin will be the Nats starting pitcher. The Nats, of course, now with an opportunity to win this series. And then after this series comes a 3-game set at the Atlanta Braves and then a 6-game homestand that starts with 3 games against the New York Yankees. So the Rockies are bad, but the Braves and Yankees are coming. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the podcast, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website that you can check out too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
The pitch. Swinging a ground ball right side toward the hole. It's going to sneak through for a base hit. Lumbering around third, Chaparro coming home. The throw by Beck is going to be cut off. Chaparro slides in, and the Nationals lead 6-0. Jacob Young delivers an RBI single.
Why do they call it Ovaltine? The mug is round. The jar is round. They should call it Round Team. Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Drinking and driving is a decision that could change your whole world. Things will never be the same if you ever get a DUI. Because legal fees and time in court are just the beginning. Getting into a crash is another way that your world can be turned upside down. Your vehicle may not be the only thing that gets damaged in that crash. You can face a life-altering injury or even death. But you're not the only one that can face those consequences. Your decision to drink and drive can permanently impact not just your world, but someone else's world as well. Whether you injure them or leave their loved ones grieving. The next time you're out drinking, call a rideshare, a taxi, a sober friend, or a designated sober driver. The only decision that will change your world for the better is the decision to call for a sober ride. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.